My idea about this podcast was there's so many stories that are fascinating, right? People's journeys. Everyone always looks at the tip of the iceberg and wow, they're successful. They drive a nice car. They have a great business, great family, all this kind of stuff. But what did they do to get there? And I always think about the Tony Robbins story of Tony Robbins lived in his car for 6 months, right? Everyone sees this massive successful man. But if you go back 20 years, Tony Robbins was literally living in his car. And it's just so inspirational to me. So I had this concept, I had this idea, but I could not bring it to the forefront. I just couldn't visualize it. I couldn't bring it full circle. And one day I'm scrolling, and Chris is an amazing content creator. And one day I'm scrolling and consuming Chris's content like I always do. And there was this really cool post. And it was a share from like 2012 or something. I don't know, Chris, way back. And you talked about, hey, I just finished, I think it was like Saturday. You had just finished up like some weekend work. You just wrapped up a 70-hour work week. And you're like, and you had not achieved success at that point, right? That was like hey, I'm just on the grind. I'm on the grind. And then today, flash forward to 2023, Chris did a repost of that and just said overnight success, huh? Because a lot of people were in a similar mastermind group. A lot of people really admire Chris in the group and they're like, wow, you made it happen so fast and you did this. But so anyway, long story short, when I saw that post, it clicked. And I told Chris that night, I actually had a dream and visioned this title and everything. Like it just all came together. Chris, thank you so much for that. This podcast is part in existence because of you. So Chris, let's start out with, tell me a little bit about the above the iceberg here. Where are you today? Tell me about your businesses and what you're doing.
Thanks so much, Sean. Honored to be here. Honored to be the very first guest as well. So thank you. My name's Chris Rodriguez. Full name is Christina Rodriguez, but only my mother calls me that, and it's when she's upset with me. And I own Grow Pro Agency. We are a digital marketing agency that specializes in working with martial arts schools. We have over 400 clients all over the United States. We just found out we made the Inc. 5000 list, number 563.
Amazing.
And I have 30 rock star employees that have helped us build this multi-million-dollar marketing agency. I also own a martial arts school. That's why we chose the martial arts niche. Been a martial artist my entire life, and I own Gracie Pack MMA. We're a BJJ and MMA academy that focuses predominantly on kids programs. We have about an 80% kind of kid focus and 20% adult focus, and I've owned that for 11 years. So that post that I shared, it's bittersweet with the Facebook memories sometimes. And when I screenshot that and shared it, it was at just the beginning of my journey of owning a martial arts school. That's where we're at now.
Very cool. And I'm a black belt as well, Chris.
Yeah, I got a 3rd degree black belt in TaeKwonDo and a 1st degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. BJJ is very different than traditional martial arts programs. It's so funny when you have a conversation with somebody and they're like, oh, you do martial arts? I'm like, yeah, I'm a BJJ black belt. And they're like, oh, my 7-year-old grandson is also a black belt. Yeah. Like, that's great. Great job. It legit happened to me in the gym this morning. I was pulling a sled and I'm like, oh, she's such a sweet woman. But I'm like, some gym etiquette right after I was done pulling a sled, which is like the hardest type of like cardio you could be doing. I'm like bent over and I can't breathe. And she wants to talk to me about her grandson who, has his black belt in martial arts.
That's awesome. I love that too. Obviously, my kids are very involved in martial arts, and I have some martial arts background myself. And it is funny, like when you hear that, right? Or it's like the other arts, right? So it's, I'm 30 years trained in this one, and you're like, okay, grab my arms, right? Yeah. Like from a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu standpoint.
Yeah. And I'm not knocking on the other styles. I started in TaeKwonDo, but it's a completely different world when you hit the ground.
Yeah. All different. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, growing up, what events, things helped potentially shape you to push you into that direction, and then we'll pick it up from there. But let's start from the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. So I was born in New Jersey, and I actually ended up moving down to Florida when I was about 4 years old. My parents got a divorce, and my mom moved us down here because after the divorce, she started dating, and she ultimately met my stepdad, who lived in Tampa, Florida. So we ended up moving down here, and that's really home to me. And I have a very interesting experience growing up because one of my favorite books is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I didn't have a rich dad, poor dad. I had a white collar family and a blue collar family. So my biological father worked for PSE&G his entire life, from the day he graduated high school all the way to retirement, which is an electric company. He worked on the plant, completely blue collar. And my mother and my stepfather always worked in the pharmaceutical world. So they worked their way up the corporate ladder. And because of that, you had two families with very different mindsets about work. And one of the things that I will never forget as a child was sitting at the dinner table with my white collar family, my mom and my stepdad, and every single night they were complaining about their bosses. And I would just sit there and I'm just thinking, like, why do you work there? If it's that bad, if the boss is that bad, why do you work there? And then I'm just thinking, okay, they make good money. Ever since I was very young, I never wanted a boss because of those conversations that happened at the dinner table.
Interesting.
And from the blue collar aspect, for anybody that would ever think that blue collar workers don't work nearly as hard as white, that's just not true. Like, my dad worked 12 to 14 hour shifts, a lot of physical labor. And what I took away from that is just because you work really hard doesn't necessarily mean it equates to wealth. And I think that is a misconception that people do have in terms of money. It's not just about working hard, it's also about working smart. So that kind of really laid the foundation of wanting an entrepreneurial life. And I'll never forget the day. It was March 15th, 1993. My mom picked me up from school. She picked me up in the car rider line, and I get in the car and she goes, "What do you think about trying martial arts?" And I had wanted to try it for a while. My mom did judo in the Bronx when she was a kid. And at the YMCA, where she took aerobics classes, right next door, there were karate classes going on. And I wouldn't watch the aerobics class, I'd watch the karate class. So she picked me up and we went to Bill Heimberger's Junior Institute of TaeKwonDo. And I will never forget that day. Mr. Chin was my instructor. He did my introductory lesson. And it was a day that forever changed the path of my life. I knew, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. I absolutely fell in love with martial arts. And I was fortunate that my parents did their research. They found a martial arts school that was a legit school. And they found a school that also had business savvy. And not a lot of martial arts schools do. Because when you think about opening up a martial arts school, you typically don't do it because you want to become rich or wealthy. It's a passion that you have. You love it. You love teaching it. But the school we found wasn't just great in terms of teaching and passion. They were also really great business owners. So I got to see firsthand what a successful martial arts school looked like. And once
I think that's amazing, because there is so many that struggle, right? And just knowing other owners of other gyms where it's like that constant, hey, we're picking up a little momentum, we get some students, then people fall off, and you're in that constant rat reel, which, by the way, Chris's company can help you with that if you're a martial arts owner and you're listening to this.
Exactly.
But no, that's so. How old were you at that time, Chris?
Yeah, I was 8 years old when I started at the martial arts school, and legit, that's all I had ever wanted to do. I still have blueprint drawings of what I would want my martial arts school to look like that I was making when I was a kid. And once I really fell in love with it, I was there from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. My parents would just drop me off, and I was the kid like, "Mr. Cook, can I clean the toilets? Can I clean the sink? Can I vacuum?" I was all in. And for me, I'm an only child, and I think that has definitely shaped the person that I am today. And martial arts, it's not necessarily a team sport when you really think about it. You absolutely need other people to get better, right? Like, you can't really just grapple with a grappling dummy. You can't really just hit the bag to really get good at martial arts. You do need team members to help you build your skills. But at the end of the day, when you go out there and you step out on the competition mat, whether it's wrestling, whether it's an MMA fight and the cage is closing, whether it's a jiu-jitsu tournament, you high-five and fist bump, it's just you. And being an only child, I got very comfortable just being alone, being by myself. And martial arts allowed me to leverage really focusing on developing my own skills. And because they have the belt rank aspect of it, you get that extrinsic reward. And I believe that my experience in the martial arts is really where my ambition was born. And do believe that ambition that I have has helped the iceberg up top kind of grow. And
absolutely, because if you think about it, with the martial arts, with the training, the other thing that I always love about martial arts, okay, average length to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt from the first time you walk in, 10 to 12 years, right? Like it's something that teaches us. We're so used to instant reward, I think, Chris, right? Again, going back to that post that I just loved, people think that it was an instant because you did have rapid success in the growth of your agency. So like you were able to come in, I think 7-figure agency helped with that, obviously, and just so you were able to really dial things in and have that scale. But without the foundation of from 8 years old of the martial arts training, of the learning the patience. I saw this one quote by this one mentor of mine, and he posted it up, and he's like, so many people, I think it's 70 to 80% of businesses fail that start, right? And so many people fail right before they're about to have success. You're right at the edge, you're right there, and you just give up. And I think the martial arts background, the martial arts upbringing, the understanding that like, yeah, you're going to train for 2 years and you might end up with 2 little stripes on your belt. And that's the most reward you're getting from me right now. Exactly. That's one thing I love about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's just, it's not that, hey, I get a belt every week. And I think for the children, like I love the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the belt system for the kids, because the kids need more of those rewards as they're building, because we're building it's who they are, but foundationally, but I just love that because it teaches that patience. It teaches that we want it today. We're used to everything instant, right? You can pull out your phone and you can find out anything you need to know in an instant. It wasn't like that way 20 years ago. You went to this thing called a library and looked in this thing called an encyclopedia, right? And it was like, so no, I just love that aspect of it.